I mean, in general, what's your strategy in a competition now?
Sit down, talk to people, communicate.
How did you ended up coming here?
It's not easy at all. And we are facing.
I remember watching this one documentary about Steve Jobs, and he was saying like project managers are those people who really don't want to be a project manager, but they became a project manager because they really have to.
That is so true. That is so true.
Can you show us your portfolio first?
The work experience I have, references from the professor.
How do you start hunting job?
Getting a job is a strategy by itself. I think we need a different podcast. What about you? What do you want to do?
Hello everyone, welcome to My Arc Stories podcast, and today we have a very special guest, Bill Lee. He is an Iowa State alumni and currently working at Corgan, but previously he had his experience in Gensler as well, and he is one of the very talented architectural designer that I've known till now, and very much passionate guy. Like, this is one of the episode where I'm gonna tell you, like, it's gonna be so much fun if you are very passionate about design and about design competitions. So on the first part of this podcast, we talk about his design competitions. So this guy is crazy. Like, he does design competitions all the time, and he has so many design competition projects, more than 30, and even in podcasts he said it's more than 20. He doesn't even keep count of that, and he has won multiple of them as well. So you should definitely check it out if you are into design competitions. And secondly, we also talked about strategy of how to win a design competition, and that is also helpful. And then if you're an international student and also trying to find out a job, then he also break down his strategy of getting into Gensler and then into Corgan. So this is a very inspiring as well as valuable podcast, I would say. So you should definitely listen to it. And I would say try to listen to it in 1.5 speed if you're really in hurry, but please do listen and share who are really looking for this kind of podcast. And let's go to the podcast. All right. Welcome, Bill. Welcome to the podcast. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Glad to be here. Nice seeing you again.
Yeah, it was long time. I think we met last year around the same time, December. I'm not sure. Yeah. And apologies, I wanted to do podcast with you last year, but like things happened, and then like it took me some time to get back and stuff. But here I am coming back with very inspirational guest, I would say. Like, if you are a student and then like doing design competitions, then you should listen to this podcast. This is a guy you should look up to. So yeah, I mean, I just don't want to tell much about you. I will just give it to you. So can you introduce yourself first?
Yes, sir. My name is Bill Lee, and I am from Saigon, Vietnam. I came to the US for high school in 2015. And then after graduate from high school, I went straight to Iowa State University for architecture program. After spending 5 years there, I went to Atlanta, Georgia, where I'm currently living at now. And I worked for Gensler for more than a year. And then after that, I came and worked for Corgan in the aviation sector. Same sector was Triton in the Atlanta office. And so far, things have been going very well. And aside from that, like Srijan mentioned, I'm very into architecture competition. I have done a lot of competitions throughout my life, from studying in school, in college until now. And I have lost more than winning, but I think every losses I experience is a lesson for me to move forward. And aside from architecture competition, I also do a lot of side work, that architecture related work that I could share today with my friends in Vietnam. So I actually do have a team in Vietnam to work with me on a lot of stuff. And my architecture team is ranging from all over the world, from all over the city, from the US to South Korea, Vietnam, and all that jazz. So yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting portfolio, I would say. So I mean, you said lots of loss, but I see it in a way that that's lots of learning, because like every competition, you are learning something new, because
Yeah.
every competition has their own flavor in it. And then you are sharpening your conceptual designing muscle, I would say, because I feel like designing is also like more like bodybuilding, like workout, because the more you do your reps and then the more sets, then you will start thinking in a different dimension. I don't know, because I haven't done this design competition in a while, because I think that's not my interest at this point right now. But yeah, I really appreciate people who are into that, because I feel like it consumes so much of energy from you, and because like you're always into that, and then like your mind is always like, oh, how am I going to do this, and then like this and that. So can you show us your portfolio first, because I really want to see your portfolio.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me share my screen.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, yes.
Oh, that's cool. I get to see my screen too. Awesome.
Hmm.
Yeah, so this is my portfolio. I uploaded to issue. I can send you a link after this. And first impression, you can see my portfolio is 94 pages. And
Hmm.
I am a firm believer of not dumbing all your hard work and portfolio down to 30 pages max. Unless you're applying for grad school and that's a requirement, then I get it. But if you do apply for a firm, I'm not a believer of like keeping 25, 30 pages, or like they're not gonna look at your portfolio. No, they will look at your portfolio. Especially it's just how you curate your portfolio and how can you tell the story. I bring this the same portfolio to career fair, and mine it's like 3 times pages than other people, and I still get offers from them. And and it's just how you tell the story. So I always like to start my portfolio with a nice, clean pages, just my name, selected work from what year to what year, because what matter is the content inside, not the cover itself. Um, and I like to include my resume, the achievement in competition I did, the work experience I have, references from the professor or mentor I look up to, all those basic stuff. Keep it clean, keep it simple, and some contact information on the top as well. And then I like to have an artist statement, always going back to what I believe in architecture and where I'm from. And project content, I broke it down to academic, competition, and part and work related project, so that it's easier, so that people can navigate through the portfolio easier. So let's go into my first academic work. This is Monumental Life. This is way back when I was at Iowa State, and I worked with Sam and Cameron from Iowa State for this project. And we always like to start a process with sketches. So these sketches, like hand drawn, it's a conversation between the teammate. How Because our site is pretty sensitive, like politically and and historically sensitive. So we trying to have a conversation through sketches, through drawing first before we go and design anything. And then we'll get into site analysis, looking at the existing program, looking at what's the geological, is that no the geography of the site, and trying to study and learn that, because none of us is from the site. So we trying to gain as much information as we can and learn as fast as we can. And then producing a graphic diagram, showing the program and the design strategy that we are putting on the site. And because, like I say, this site is pretty sensitive, so we're trying to put minimal touch and keep the existing remain of the ruins of the site, so that the new architecture become a background to kind of bring forward the existing condition. And he is like a rendering shots. I So for this project, a little bit special. Usually, I don't put every single rendering in one page, but this kind of like tell a story where you have a grid of just these images showing no people specifically, but the object. Because here I want to tell a story of like showing the remnant of the activity has happened here, and let kind of like your imagination to like running through this kind of like a gallery of like activities is being showcased here rather than like individual like big pages. And here, I always like to end my portfolio with like a big spread, kind of like tie everything together, and also a nice transition page to the next one as well. So this is like a model that we did, and this model we using both casting and 3D printed process to make the model. Here's the big spread, and then going back to the project that this is my third year project with Professor Bosak, who's one of my great mentor. And I know Strijan, you also went through Bosak Studio, so you're very familiar with
Yeah.
these Festo, yep, showing
Yeah.
existing and new condition, and massing exploration, a lot of iteration. I'm the firm believer in iterations. So iteration, 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 and because it's like wine, right? You keep refining it, and it's only get better.
Hmm.
I know.
So
So feel
one thing about your portfolio. So, like, I just wanted to mention this to all the viewers that even when I was starting my portfolio, his portfolio was also one of my reference. So you can see a lot of similarities in his portfolio and my portfolio because, like, even I'm kind of more into like minimalistic and telling the story kind of portfolio person. So that's what I picked from his portfolio. So you can see like a little bit of a similar touch in cover page, and then like the starting key pages, and a little bit in the renderings and all. So yeah, can you show us your one of your competition project or something? Like I feel like if we go through your portfolio, that's a whole different thing. So I'm gonna put this in the description for viewer to look themselves. But just show us like a rundown of it, and then one competition project.
Yeah, okay. I will show you the Synergy project, which is this project right
Hmm.
here.
Hmm.
Wha The reason for there's two reasons I showed this. The first reason is that this project is in Vietnam, and I always
Okay.
tie my heart, my soul back to where I'm from, and Vietnam. It's where I was born and die there. And so, like being able to win a competition from Vietnam, it's an incredible experience, and have it built is an incredible achievement for me. So this project, it's called De La Soul Shade Design Competition. So this project, they have a very beautiful courtyard with a nice stair connecting from the top level to the ground level, and that is the existing condition. So the challenge is how do you create shading devices that kind of like covering the area so that people can sit outside, because now people not wanting to sit outside because of like how harsh the sunlight is, because and Vietnam's in tropical climate, so the sunlight is very toxic. If you sit outside for too long, you're gonna get very sick. So looking at and this competition is a 1.5 week crunch, and it was a team of 3 people, and it took a lot out of me to convince the other two, Shun and John Bai, to participate with me, because they all busy with like their deadlines. But like I need help. This is the moment where you cannot do everything by yourself. You need help. And the first thing we did, but then we have to have a strategy. And the strategy is, since the brief specifically mentioned that they are open to destroy the stair and willing to destroy the stair and to put a new shading device in. And I'm like, let's not do that. Even though they open for that, but as I know, a good design, we should speak with the existing condition and not trying to destroy it. Can we harmonize? Can we synergize with it? So that's why I told my team, like, let's not destroy it. Let's use what they have and create a wonderful experience for them. So we're thinking of the idea of growth. The idea, because they have a lot of like plants, a lot of like greeneries around. So the idea of growth came out. Can all these shading devices symbolizing the like these plants like growing out of the ground, having like different height, different shadings, and kind of like covering the area, right? So we're studying that circular area, and then we providing a different like, and we kind of learn like from that circular shape, and from that circular shape, we kind of like create these 8 different points on that circle, and then we kind of like push and pull to create these undulating like surfaces, representing kind of like the leaves of the planting around. And then we play around with the height, and we play around with like the module. We're using those leaf as a module, and then we start like playing around with the height, and then with the orientation. And we're also thinking about the connection. How does these pieces connect together? Kind of like a kit apart, kind of like an IKEA. So I like to call these a diagram, IKEA diagram, kind of like showing the assemble of them. Even though in architecture, it's basically just an exploded axon, right? And really thinking about it like the detail and all these detail in competition, you don't have to have everything figured out, but then having a sense of how it is made, it's very nice. And then you know me, I really love a model, and this is a rendering looking model. And this has always because like to me like because of the time crunch, we couldn't really make the model. So having a rendering kind of like showing like the hand and stuff like that, kind of like in a way showing like the scale of like the figure and like the actual design. And and here's another like IKEA diagram, like showing the process was step one, step two, step three, step four, step five. Of course, these are just hypothetically thinking, because when we actually working with the manufacturer and the contractor, things gonna be different, right?
Hmm.
And then here's the rendering showing kind of like from the like the view from the top of the stair as you're going down to the courtyard. So you can see this rendering is a little bit different from my usual style. My
Hmm.
usual style, I focus on the very hyper realistic experience, but for this rendering, I want to show a very sketchy and whimsical way, because I'm trying to tell the story of a space where like a kid, like kids and family can come. People of many ages can come. So we keep it, and because of the time crunch, so we're trying to be smart about how we represent this. It's also easy for it's going to take a lot of time for us to produce a hybridistic, but then we want to keep it sketchy, so because we want the imagination of the jury to be able to be triggered. We want to tell a story of like, this is a very nice space for family, for friends to gather. Yeah, and yeah, and then we won the competition. I presented, and then I presented this competition at 4 a.m. In the U.S. time, because that was like 5 p.m. in Vietnam, and it was the rally of all the finalists, and we all have to present it to the jury. And I was the only one on the big screen presenting, and it was
Hmm.
the first project I present in Vietnamese through
Oh,
my
that's
education.
interesting.
Yeah, through my education in the US, I only presented in English, right? So even
Hmm.
though the project title is synergy, I don't even know what synergy mean in Vietnamese. I have to Google it 2 minutes
uh,
before the presentation, like, and I have to tell them like, yeah, I don't know what synergy mean in Vietnamese, but here's the project, and then I presented it. And hear me out. I'm competing against professional designer in Vietnam who went through school there, so they know every single like academic word to use when they present it in
hmm.
Vietnamese, and I know nothing. So sometimes
Hmm.
I present it in Vietnamese. Sometimes I throw out a little English, and like people are like, what? I was like, dang, am I like really losing this battle right here? Like, because I'm like throwing out English like that. But at the end, like the result was wonderful. I was like, dang, like couldn't believe it. Like we made it, and then I had to work after work at like 7:30, but it was a really good experience. Yeah, and this was like last year too, I think, or 2 years
Yeah,
ago.
I think so, because I remember seeing this last year, probably in your LinkedIn or somewhere, or maybe in your Instagram. I think you
Yeah,
shared it. But yeah, I mean, congratulations again. But it's really interesting, this project, because um, it's kind of reminding me like this one project Big did a while ago. I think there was like some kind of harbor or ship or something like that. Let me find it. Can you let
Oh,
me share?
is it the Maritime Youth House?
Oh yeah, probably.
Yeah,
Can you stop sharing, because I
yeah,
think I wanna just find that out and then
yeah.
show it to our audience here, because so I'm just trying to correlate this one thing that even in that competition they were told, like, you cannot do some kind of a thing, but they did it. I don't
No, it
remember
was
what
the ship
project is
one.
that.
It was the ship one. Yeah,
Yeah, the ship
they
one. Yeah, the ship one.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, they got sued, and then the jury were like, you know what, we're gonna cancel competition, but then like they put in an offer for Big, like, hey, we want a different brief, just like towards what Big already designed. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, let me just put my screen. Um, is my screen showing? Oh no, I okay. I think it's showing now. So
Yep,
yeah, I'm talking about this one.
yep,
Yeah, I think even in this project, they were not allowed to do something. I don't exactly remember right now, but yeah, this is also a really interesting project. So that's just reminded me of this, because you said like you were not. I mean, they were open to removing that staircase, but you just kept it, and that, I think that is like one key point for your design, that they might have really liked it. So I'm seeing like one strategy already there, like trying to think. I mean, it's a very cliche to say, like trying to think out of the box, but sometimes like even the simple thing, like you just forget about it.
yep,
And some people, some like other participants, they might not have thought about it. So that could be your ISP, I guess. And
yeah.
that could help. So yeah, we are just talking about competition. So you have done so many competitions till now, so do you even remember like how many you have done after school?
I started keeping counts. I have a list, and now I
Hmm.
don't keep counts anymore. I just have a Google Drive, and
Yeah,
I
yeah,
just put everything on there. But
maybe
man,
20 or more, 20 or more.
no more 30.
More.
I'm in the 30. Yeah, yeah. And then and one time it's funny because I work with different team. For different type of competition, I go out and choose my team, or like begging them, like, "Hey, do you have time?" One thing, the one of my great mentor at Iowa State, Ronaldo, told me that one time he told me this. He's like, Bill, the best thing a person can give you in their life is their time, and I take that to heart. So whenever I do a competition with people, I was like, hey, do you have time? And I don't just say that out of like and treat it normally. When they say yes, I can do it with me, with you, Bill. It's a commitment. Like people who work with me know working with Bill is a freaking commitment because Bill will running you around like crazy. And so like like even though I'm running my team around like crazy, but in inside I really appreciate all their hard work, and I really appreciate the time they put in. And like Shrijan, you know this, going home after a long day of 9 to 5 working, going to the gym is a commitment to go to the gym, right? And like or doing anything after work is a commitment. And like going home after a long working day, after like huge deadline, open your laptop again and work on a competition, it's a lot. It's a lot. So like the people who work with me before, like I want to use this podcast to like thank you all for like putting up with me, and and all the great memories we have. Um, but yeah, uh, man, I lost my thought. I was gonna say something cool, but oh well, yeah.
No worries, it's fine. So I just wanted to ask you about like, so how do you find these competitions? So do you have like any criteria? Because like you just don't want to jump into any some random hillbilly kind of competitions, right? So how do you choose it?
Absolutely. Well, first when I was in college, I chose I based on a website called competition.archy. They have a very nice like summarized like they kind of like a resource to like gather competition from all the organizer into that one page, and I just based on that. And I think they also the one who promoting the YAC book, the young
Hmm.
the yeah, the architecture book of the year. And then from competition.rk, I found out about YAC, Young Architecture Competition, which I always go back to and work on it because the people on YAC, like the team on YAC, are phenomenal. They are international. They like the team is so good, and when you see the rendering coming out of those competition, it's insane. Like those rendering, like look like a professional doing it, right? And and then now I'm branching out to like bee breeder, but I always go back to YIC because I think the brief of YIC it's more um, like captivating to me because they doing a lot with existing condition, and I'd really like to work on a project dealing with existing condition because the constraint of existing condition it's very tough. Like you building an extension at like an all Italian church in Sicily, and it's just not easy. Like I'm out of context. I'm not from Italy, and just using images and trying to like learning about the culture and stuff like that, it's take a lot of time, right?
Hmm.
And the jury on YAC are like I'm talking Pritzker Prize winner and famous, star architect like King Okuma's on it, Aries Matthews on it, Junya Shigami on it, like a lot of famous architect, star architect on it. So like being able to like have your work judged by those people is an honor in itself, whether you win it or not, right?
Hmm. So, I mean, yeah, that's really intense as well because like you have to live up to some kind of a standard. I mean, I don't want to say that, but yeah, I mean, like if you are showing your work to some one of the best people, then you will also push through. Like you'll be like, yeah, I gotta do it, kind of feeling. So,
Yeah.
like after doing so many competitions, like so what kind of strategy, like if you have any strategy that you have developed throughout the like experience of working in competition, like do you have any strategy of how to manage your time for competitions, or like I mean in general, what's your strategy in a competition
Right.
now, or like before 2 years ago when you were doing competition?
Right. No, that's a great question. But before I go into mine, let me tell you one thing that my my first strategy ever is like I want to know how the other competition team do. Like how do they do it, right? That's my very first one. Like I don't want to start from a blank page. I want to start from having information from how my like opponents, do their thing. I have team members who participate in the other team. So I'm talking like the other team, as in like the other like country. China does things differently. Like
Hmm.
we think competition is just gather member, crank out concept, production. That's it. No, 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 no. China does things intensively different. So I have team member who has worked not work, sorry, who has joined those competition team in China and tell me how they do things. They insane. They have a very intense schedule from the day the competition is launched. They would gather a team with mentors, right? They have mentors, not one, mentors. Those mentors are like Harvard graduate, Yale graduate in the US. And those mentors have a team in itself. They have a technical person, and they have a technical person would be in charge of technology related, as in Rhino, Enscape. You don't know how to use Rhino? Here's a guy you should come and talk to, kind of like a BIM manager in a firm.
Hmm.
And they have a concept driven person who will check your concept constantly, right? They will teach the team to do research concept, but then that one person will be like, no, that concept fit with the brief, that concept doesn't fit with the brief, right? And they and the main leader will be the one who reviewing your board. And when they reviewing your board, they will make you change the layout constantly because they know exactly what the competition is looking for. So like sometime, not even though your graphic is not strong, but then like your layout is strong, you can tell your concept, then you would rank very high, right? And they have a schedule of a milestone of how they do things, right? And these are the team I'm going up against. Like they have helps, and sometimes it's just me and my friends, like Bill and the friends, and versus the professionals, right? So do not be surprised when you see a lot of people rank higher, even though their project, you're like, oh, why is that the first place? Because they have a whole system behind it. So me not knowing that back in college, it was just I treat it as a normal studio, and then I treat it as like me working with friends. Here's one thing about working with friends is to get tricky. When you work with friends, because you guys know each other way too well, there are a lot of time people will be slacking. So I stopped working with friends. I work with people who are capable, right? Because like when I say working with friends, like you're like, oh, even I know exactly what is that person capable of. But then I'm like 50-50. I'm not sure if I want to work with you because I know you have some of these weakness as well. But then sometimes because we're a friend, I would look past those weakness and work with you, right? And that I learned at the hard way. So now I'm working with the people who actually capable and willing to do it, not just do it because we're a friend. So working with a very capable team member and keep your team to the minimum of 3 to 4 people is the best, right? I found out 3 to 4 people is the best. And having a diversity in the way your team works is also very the best. Like one person can be very research oriented, the other person can be very conceptual oriented, right? And the other person can be like very like Rhino heavy, or like very skilled at software, right? So having like everyone should not be at the same level. That there should be one better than the other in terms of skill level because you do want that diversity to drive the competition project. So that's my second strategy, right? Picking the right team member. And my third one is the time and schedule. You always have to have time and schedule because people life, like our conversation earlier, people life is very diverse. Sometimes I work in a different time zone. I have friends in Cali, I have friends in South Korea, I have friends in Vietnam. Our time zone is so different. So we have to figure out a schedule where we can have a dedicated meeting every week. It could be a weekend or a weekday. And then we just meet and talk about the progress, right? And then like we all and I always like to tell people like if you have something going on in your life, please send it in the group chat because we don't want the deadline's approaching and then you say, oh, I have 2 weeks, I have to go visit my parents and stuff, because you will go visit your parents, but then like this is the commitment you're in with the team, so please let us know in advance so we know how to push it, we know how to like spreading out our schedule so we don't kill ourselves at the end, because that's one thing always happen to competition. People crunch at the last minute, 2 hours before submission, we all crunching, right? And I don't want that to happen because sometimes when you on that crunch timeline, what happened if that day you have a deadline at your firm, right? What happened if you have like something going on with your like wife or spouse, right? So like we always have to keep like those external factor within account, right? So schedule, it's very important. Sit down, talk to people, communicate. And then my fourth thing is having a template from the beginning. It's very important. When I say template, I mean the template of production. Like even though you haven't have a concept yet, even though you haven't have a narrative yet, but knowing what you need to produce, and when you have everything set in stone, just produce towards that. Because when you have, even though you have a layout, at the end, thing will change, thing will shift around, but at least you have the material that you need to tell your project. Like symbol, elevation, how many elevation we're having, how many axle we're having, how many section we're having, how many floor plan we're having, right? Because like depending on each competition, they require differently. YAC require one big board and a booklet. So you're doing 7 pages, and it's a lot, right? Like, but then like Kyra Laurel, which is curated by Kengo Kuma, only require one board. But then they have a catch. They want you to submit a PDF of material, list, and price, because they're gonna look at it and see how cheap you can build this thing, right? So each competition have their own template and thing. So make it in the beginning when your time is still free. Like you still have time to research stuff like that. Like when things still slow, do that first, right? And my fifth one, it's very easy. Just have fun. You have to have fun with competition. Like if you don't have fun, you don't take joy in what you're doing, then there's no point of doing it, right?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean that's some of the really useful, wise advice, I would say, to people who really want to do take part in competition. But also I see a lot of project manager in you now, because that's what project managers are supposed to do in office, isn't it? Like you got to manage your team on how to meet the deadlines, and then like how to keep all the external factors together as well. And even like before we were starting this podcast, I was also talking about like there should be some kind of studio in school where you will teach, where you will be learning a little bit about the real professional world, like how they actually do projects in real world. So I think that's kind of applicable to your design competition strategy as well. So yeah, let me circle back to the same thing as well, which we talked about before the podcast. So I was thinking this because, like, in most of the studios, we just want to grind 24/7 and then, like, put out the best work. But the thing is, like, there should be some end goal, like, at least with the time or something, because if we have anything unlimited, then you are never going to make like a perfect work. So you gotta limit yourself, right? Even with this, if there is a constraint in sight, then you will think out of the box. But if it's like a blank paper, then like you cannot do anything. Like you will get just stuck in this perfect world. So like I was having this idea in my head that I want to, maybe like sometime in future, if I get a chance, I want to teach a studio where you will make a Gantt chart. And then like, so if you don't know about Gantt chart, maybe I will put up somewhere in this video somewhere around here. Yeah. And so basically you are meeting deadlines, and then you'll be like, okay, so if we are doing research, then do it up to this point. And then after, if we are starting our conceptual, then we will start from here. And also find out like critical path. So like where, which is the most important thing that we have to deal with, otherwise like our whole thing will get stuck. So maybe we should, like people should think about approaching competitions in that way as well, so that like, I mean, I think you are already doing it, because um I could see all that from the strategies you have mentioned.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to stress on that. So yeah, this was all about competitions, but let's take a little bit of pause from competitions and let's go to something else. So like back in Nepal, so now there is like a huge push that people want to go abroad, and then like move to abroad and find a good job opportunity, education and stuff. So what's the situation in Vietnam like? How did you ended up coming here? Was it like your own decisions, or is it like back in Nepal, like where people are just following the wimp and they just want to go outside and do something?
Yeah. I think I this is such a great question. And my answer for this has been different over the years. But now I can guarantee and say that I study abroad because I could not keeping up with the competitive environment in Vietnam. That's the first
Mhm.
thing. That growing up in Southeast Asia, it's the and especially Vietnam, the man, the people around you are so good. They're so smart. But then it's also the education there. It doesn't fit with me. Like they want you to be well rounded in everything because you don't really know what you do until like maybe after college, or if you even go to college at all. But then like just being in high school, it was a very hard time for me keeping up with people because I'm always good at drawing. I'm always good at math and English, and that's about it. But then good is not enough. You have to be excel at them, and like people around me just like geniuses and and like great artists. So going studying abroad was a decision I see in a flyer. A flyer was passed around in my high school, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. And I talked to my parents about it, and it was through scholarship too. And I talked to my parents about it. My parents like, well, Bill, like we don't have money, like it's hard. So it took me a lot to convince my parents. It took me a year to convince them because I had to like put in the work, like trying to prove to them like, hey, I have what it takes to study abroad. I'm honing my English skill until today, and I'm taking drawing classes. I'm trying to get myself prepared because I have always known I want to do architecture. That's the thing. I have always known I want to do architecture. Um, but like more architecture on the animation side though. I love growing up, love watching cartoon and all that stuff and reading comics. I still read comics like manga. I still do that. But then I want more like doing like architecture for like a comic book. But then my parents see more out of me, so they're like, why don't you just do like actual architecture? I was like, okay. So and then after taking a year like convincing my parents like, okay, I have what it takes, and then they finally let me go, and I have this wonderful scholarship to go study abroad in high school. And then afterwards like things just take off from there, after one scholarship to another one, and then applying to Iowa State because Iowa State was like the very affordable school for a very good program, right? And I did not prepare myself well for high school there, so like I did not like apply to like higher school because back in the day I was like, man, I don't think I have what it takes to like go higher, so I just applied to Iowa State and be there. But then I was fortunate enough to meet a lot of wonderful professor and mentor kind of like guide me on this path of design, and I was like, I think I have what it takes. Like I think part of it is also self confident. Like I didn't have much self confidence in myself because like people around me just way too talented, man, and it take a lot of for me to get where I'm at right now, right? But I think one thing though that I did not that like people always asking like, Bill, why are you doing competition so much? Like why don't you sleep or whatever? I'm like, I'm just grateful for the opportunity of being able to continue to stay in the US. Like Srijan, like you on this journey with me, you know this. It's not easy. It's never been easy. Like leaving your home, leaving everything, be in the US is not easy at all. And like, we are facing things at school, and then we are facing things after school, right? Like now we professional, practicing, like things are different as well. Like we have to face all the problems, right? And it's never been easy. So like every single day, I'm able to do architecture. I'm very grateful for it, and because like this is what I love, and this is what I will continue doing, and hopefully being able to like being good at it. I'm not at the point I wanted yet, but I'm getting there, right? It's a process. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know you will get there because I can see that passion in your eyes when you talk about design. Because like
Yeah.
I've seen very few people who are so passionate about architecture. I mean, there are other people, but maybe like after school, kind of like that passion dies out because um, people like they have their life to figure out, and then like in your work you won't be able to design all the time because practice is not just about design because there are like so many other things involved. But to keep that creative fuel, creative passion in you, you need to fuel that with something, and I think design competition is one of that thing that you got to do.
Yeah.
And I mean, to me, it's more like a YouTube because I feel like I'm channeling my creative energy in YouTube and Instagram, and also trying to put some value to people. So I guess like, um, yeah, I mean, this whole setup of corporate America is like you got to do something else as well to keep sane. Otherwise, like you will fall into that loop of um, not knowing what to do, and then like you'll be like, what the hell is going on with my life, and you're just stuck in a loop of that, waking up, going to office, coming back home, doing nothing, and partying on the weekend, and then like waiting for another weekend, and the cycle goes on. So yeah, I think like you gotta find your something, like maybe workout or something.
See, man, that's such a great point. I think what you say is, spot on, but maybe sometime that's all people want, right? So I have talked to people who like they say like, oh, that's all they want. They just want to work for some company 9 to 5 and then retire later. I'm like, well, I respect that, right? But then for
Hmm.
us, like we kind of like remove from home, right? So like we kind of like like we are still trying to situate our life in the U.S. So that's why
Hmm.
they are more than work for us, right? So for some people, especially for the folks who were born here, maybe that's their life already figured out since they were born. So like they just want a very stable and steady life. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like we don't like our 9 to 5 job. We do like it, but at the same time, it's like sometimes when you are doing the same thing over the period of a month or a week, like in practice, if you are doing DD or CD, like it's gonna take like maybe 6 month or even more. So you gotta you gotta find something else to keep yourself refreshed, I guess. So that's the whole point of this. After graduation, you went to Gensler. I mean, looking at your portfolio, you have like two giant architect company on your portfolio. You are currently at Corgan, and then like initially at Gensler. So tell me about like your experience at Gensler, and also like how you get into Gensler.
Man, getting a job is a strategy, but so I think we need a different podcast. I have a strategy for things, but Gensler, man, I'm trying to think. It's been so long. I reached out to Daisy, who also an Iowa State alumni, who is still working at Gensler. I reached out to her my 5th year to show her my interest of Gensler, and she like, yeah, just send me a portfolio and resume, and that's when I really diving down, like trying to brush up my portfolio and my resume. Even though I have everything ready, I'm still not happy with it, so I keep refining it. I sent it to her, and then she was kindly enough to reach out to the studio leader and the office leader, and kind of like circulating my material around the office, so people kind of like know who I am. But then that wasn't enough. So but then I was in NOMAS, and NOMAS was a good bridge for me to connecting
Can
with
you tell me what is NOMAS? Like, what's the full form or something?
national organize. Oh, man, National Organization of Minority Architects. I think.
Architects, yeah, something like that. I think it's a student chapter for that.
Yeah, I think it's Iowa State chapter. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, because like my our viewers might not know about it, so I just wanted to put
You
that
didn't know
out
us,
there.
right? You were
Yeah,
Nomads. You were at the Nomads conference for Corgan,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah. I went to NOMA conference this year on October on Baltimore. Yeah, it was fun.
They had an event called the Firm Crawl, where the president of Iowa State chapter like connected with other firms. Man, my phone, with other firms, and then Gensler was on the list. So after that, I just during that firm crawl, I just talked to the folks from Gensler, and then I sent out my material after work, like thanking him. And then when Gensler opened their portal for application, I put in my material, and then the Gensler folks who I met at the firm crawl were nice enough to like tell me to put them as reference. So I put them as reference, and that's really like quickly, put me into the interview round. And after 2 interview round, well, it's more like a one round thing because the second round they gave me the offer and I was tearing up in front of them. It's kind of funny because like that was my first job. I was like, yeah, yeah, I have a job, yeah, like my ancestor will be proud of me. It's crazy. And then yeah, and then after that, I just moved straight to Atlanta. Pack up and I have my job. I have my offer in the fall. So in the spring, I was just chilling, man. I was just chilling. I took this wine class and a movie class. So I just like drink wine and then go to watch a movie, and it's great. And I graduate and then move to Atlanta, and the rest is history.
Mhm.
And then after 1 or 2 year working in like so I started in retail. So Zara retail, you work a lot on like Zara store, like Foot Locker, and it's really like get me into like a very quick like architectural market, like how things are so quick. Like you have to produce drawings and get myself used to like CD and DD. Like retail is a very small, so that's a very fast pace. But then during my time doing retail, I was able to transition to a lot of like hospitality work and also a lot of like office work. That's something about like big firm is that you get borrowed into a lot of different projects because sometimes they may lack of staff, they may need more people. So you get to touch on a lot of great projects. And then I met a lot of great mentor there at Gensler as well. But after 1 year, I transitioned to Corgan, and fall in love with aviation, right? Because my thought is I'm still early in my career, and I think I want to touch on the different aspect of different field, different sector, right? In architecture, because I just want to learn as quick as possible. About like how the U.S. markets are doing and how different type of project is a little bit different.
So you have like experience with two giant company, Gensler and Corgan. So what do you find like a difference between working in? I would say like first is working between two firms and also working between different sectors. What do you find the difference?
I think the two firm is very similar. I don't see any difference between them. I think it's just Gensler it's just a little bit bigger because they have a longer history than Corgan. I think, but for the sector wise, I think aviation is very um, um, difficult and very hard to learn because there's a lot of technical knowledge you have to know because of the standard, right? Like you have to know what's the difference between a concourse and terminal, right? And like so
Yeah,
I
I
always
mean,
thought that,
tell us the difference. Tell us the difference.
yeah. Oh man, tell you the difference. Oh my gosh. I'm hard.
I
So
I
the
remember I remember telling this difference in one of my video that I prepared. So I think I was going to where is that? I think I was going to Cleveland or somewhere, and then I
yeah,
saw this word concourse. I'm like, oh, I know this. What I know the meaning of that.
man. So concourse is after the SSCP, which is the security checkpoint. And Concord is where all the gates and the whole rooms are at. That's where you're waiting for your flights. Terminal, it's like kind of like a head house, kind of like where the ticketing counter is. Other programs are at that, and that's usually including the security checkpoint. That's where the land side is, and that's where the security checkpoint is. The concourse is like after the land side, which is you on the air side, right? And yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so
Yeah.
yeah,
So like even in some airport, like the whole building could be a concourse. So basically it's like a terminal building has a concourse if it has a gates in it,
yep,
but a concourse could be a like a different building in itself as well, because like I
yeah,
think it's in a uh, Colorado airport. What's the name of that airport in Colorado? Denver airport. They
okay.
have like a different building which are concourse, and it's connected by the train. So
So we call those project the man. There's a term for it. There's a term for that type of project because sometimes those
I think
concourse
isn't
are,
it like the satellite planning or
yeah,
something like that?
satellite and like yeah, satellite or something. Man, that's a
Yeah,
word for it. I would just heard it like 2 days ago.
yeah.
But it's those building like tend to be temporary. Like
Hmm.
or because like they're just gonna build it small for like about 10 to 15 years, and then later on they're gonna like demolish it and expand it even bigger on that side. That
Mhm.
usually is, I think, but I could be wrong. But yeah, I'm actually working on a similar project like that in Charleston right now, and it's been
Mhm.
good. It's very fast paced too. But yeah, so going back to aviation, it's you have to solve a lot of problem with it, because sometimes you're dealing with existing condition airport. Like these airport are built back in like the 1900 something, right? And like the standards back then is very small. Like the restroom, for example, like airport will forever dealing with restroom, especially like public restroom, because like the standards for ADA and clearances are getting bigger and bigger. Way back, 5 foot clearance is enough for two-way traffic. Now they're asking for 6'6" recommendation. Like yeah, like airport gonna get bigger and like standard gonna change. So like and then like the existing condition, we have to work around it, right? And then sometime, but there's one tricky thing about the airport for the existing condition is that the baggage handling system. I worked on a project in Cincinnati where the baggage handling system is so complex, it's so complicated. It's more than grasshopper, man. Like the way like they manage and create these system way back, it's very commendable. And like sometime when you do something structural, you have to always look at, am I touching the baggage handling system? Am I touching the HVAC, the MEP that's going around, like keeping the airport functioning? We have to be absolutely careful about that. And like sometimes the structural, sometimes they got very beef up back in the day because of those reasons. So if you do a new expansion, you have to make sure that you know where your expansion joint and your control point is at, so that the airport don't collapse during your construction. It's so difficult, and I think I like the challenge in it, because it sounds like a math problem where there is a definite answer. Sometime in the design process, you losing that definite answer because you're like, oh, anything is possible. Well, in airport, sometime not anything is possible. Sometimes you can only do certain thing, right? But then you still having like kickback from like higher leader, like no, make it work. Like especially for like I'm gonna go back to restroom. Sometimes we have to meet the count that were provided by the planning team, but then we don't have enough space. And then like the leader would be like, no, make it work. I'm like, ugh, like it's a lot of math and a lot of headache, and yeah, it's a lot. But then again, like when you solve the problem, you will become a better designer, I think. Like when you, because like if you can solve like those like technical problem and figure things out and make sure things work, I think the design part it's an easier side. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point that you talked about. So even I'm on a DFW project. So DFW is
Oh,
like renovation work all the time.
this is a
So there are
beast.
like so many challenges out there in DFW, and even with the small projects, like you gotta think through. Like I was doing this one project recently, and then like even though it was just replacement of doors, but still like you had to think about so many multiple things. Like if you are demolishing any um, very sensitive wall, cider wall, so like stuff like that. So it's really tough sector, but at the same time like you are doing a lot in the aviation when you are doing it. And so yeah, this is the all about our job and all. So I just want to circle back because I felt like I missed one question in the design competition earlier. So, like after doing so many competitions, like what do you think? Like how much of advantage you have got, or anything in your professional life? Like what do you have, I wouldn't say advantage, but like what extra do you bring on the table, or like after design competitions?
Oh, I see. Well, my portfolio got beefed up real quick.
Mhm.
Now, man, I tend to put everything in one place, and now my issue cannot contain it because I have so much competition work. And sometimes even I don't remember the deadline of my competition. Like I have to have other team member to remind me, like, "Boo, do you know that you have deadline for the other one. Like next week, I'm like,
Mhm.
oh crap, I do. Like I don't remember. But I think like it's really boosted up my portfolio. Like in this, so when I was interviewing with SOM and in Chicago office, they who were very kindly to give me an offer. But man, Chicago is too cold. But they 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 look at my stuff and like, wait, you did that much in the span of 1 year? I was like, yeah, I did, huh? Like I did not realize that. I'm like, yeah, I did. It was like, wow, that's commendable. I was like, thank you. But but like it's really boost up your portfolio. Like if like you, because in school you always feel like your work is not enough. But then like do not use your school as the only work you should do. If you want to put more work into your portfolio, then do competition. One or two competition would be very nice on your portfolio. It's create diversity, right? Because usually people put professional work and academic work, which is totally fine, but then having competition will be very like boost up the diversity in your portfolio because you are dealing with different site and different context, right? That you did not get a chance to tackle when you were in school. And on top of that, like the second thing is like you get to work on a lot of different competition brief, which is sometimes very cool. Sometimes it's just like a small renovation project, or sometimes it's like dealing with the bigger idea, like a moon station or like a Mars houses on Mars, right? Like you get to go very hard on those, like the theoretical side. But then at the same time, I mean, moon station doesn't sound theoretical anymore. Like people actually doing it.
Yeah.
So yeah, so like you, but then you get into like actually researching those, right? Because like those are the things you did not get to research in school. But then you have to research like how does thing work, like how do people breathe and stuff, right? So you get to boost like your research and your knowledge as well. And also working with a diversity group of people. I think I met the incredible designer through my doing competition. Like I met great teammates. I'm able to like learn a lot from them. But I'm also able to like figure it out myself that like, oh, I'm actually good at managing project. Like you were talking about, like, Bill, you look like you like can be a project manager. I'm like, well, I don't want to, but like I
I,
have
I
to.
want to say one thing on this because I remember watching this one documentary about Steve Jobs.
Mm,
Documentary, or I saw it somewhere. So what he says is like they initially hired project managers who are specialization in doing those things, but they were shit because they didn't know the actual work. And he was saying like project managers are those people who really don't want to be a project manager, but they became a project manager because they really have to. So that's kind of reminded me of that.
That is so true. That is so true. I don't want to. I have to, because if oh man, that's echoing. Because if I don't want to, this team gonna fall apart, because like no one checking like the deadline, no one checking where we at with the process, right? And no one gonna say no, because like if you have like five incredible designers on a team, they're just gonna keep on a design. They're gonna crank it until the end. But like
Mhm.
sometimes we have to like, no, let's stop. We need to produce, guy. Otherwise, we don't have anything for submission, right? Yeah, like I tell my team like, hey guys, I'm not a team leader. I'm just here to make sure we keeping our schedule, like on task. That's it, all right.
Mhm.
And I will be the tiebreaker if we have like a like a 50-50 decision we need to make. I'll be that tiebreaker. But like I'm not here to leading anyone. Everyone is incredible. Like let's work together. Like no one work for me. Everyone work with me, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, and I think and I think the last thing I want to say for competition is that I realize, man, how there are so many talented people out there in this on this earth. It's incredible. Like I have had a team filled with Harvard GSD students who I looked up to. Like they are older, they are older than me, and I looked up to them. I learned a lot from them, and they're so incredible. And then we have a project that where the jury is Kengo Kuma. I was so 90% confident we're gonna win this, because if we win it, we're gonna build it. I was so confident, man. Guess what? We lost to a third year architecture student in Vietnam, in my city.
Mm.
And that's actually taught me a lot. I was like, first of all, I was pissed. I was like, but then secondly, I was like, going to prestigious school or graduate from it doesn't guarantee that you will always win competition,
Yeah.
right? It's just how your project at that moment meeting the brief and meeting the jury criteria, have a lot. But then it's shown me that how there are so many talents on this earth that that are willing to design, willing to do competition, and competing against those people. It's my honor, but
Hmm.
also my greatest anger, because sometimes you're like, wow, why did I lose to that one? But then the more I read into the project, the more I realize, oh, I see why they win, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. So I also learn from them. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you already mentioned that you also got offer from SOM as well, and then
Yeah.
like you work to Gensler, and then currently at Corgan. So yeah, let's break it down. I just want to extend this podcast a little bit longer. We are more than our usual time, but I feel like I'm just loving this flow. So let's talk about the job strategy. Like, how do you start hunting job?
I have a Excel sheet of the firm I ranking where I want to be, and sometimes it's based on the geographical location. I don't want to be in the cold winter. Yeah, I'm very
Yeah, we
weak
were
in
in Iowa for so long, so
yeah. I'm
no,
so
I don't want cold either.
yeah, yeah. And then so the firm and then the sector, right? The sector I pick, which is the studio in some firm. I pick some firm they don't have a specific studio. Uh, like some firm everything just blend together. When you're the firm, you work on a variety of project. So I rank them based on sector. I would like to be in a specific sector first, rather than like in a joint studio, and the way I pick the sector based on the market as well. So let's say the market in 2022, retail and office work was skyrocket. Like everyone want to build, office. But then after that, it's tanking. It's going straight down because the market was so bad. An investor want to, like do not want to invest anymore. But then aviation and data center is going sky, like now it's still going strong. So like pick a so that's my like third important strategy, like pick the sector that doing well in the market, because sometimes the jobs your job that you are doing it's actually related to those, because like the tech layoff definitely sorry, not the tech layoff, the retail um, investor like withdrawal like over the past 2 years was crucial, and that affect like a lot of firm who meat and potato is retail and office work, right? So like they have to like looking work from other offices and other sector, right? So that's also a strategy. Like pick where you want to be, and does that mean that pick where you want to be after school? Is that going to be the thing you're going to spend the rest of your life with? No, like come on, man. Like we are still way too early in our career, but get a job and really learn from the job. If you don't like it after a year or 6 months, you can leave and do something else. Maybe academic is for you. Do that. I totally respect that. Or if that's something for you, then keep doing it. Or if that sector is not for you and you still want to stay in the workforce, try something else, right? But at least you try and you work, so you see how the professional world is doing. So and then connection, having a good strategy of connection through conference, through NOMAS, through AIA, having those connection is very crucial. I slept on it when I was second year student. I'm like, I don't need connection. My portfolio is enough. No, you can be the best designer in the world. Your portfolio is incredible, but you will still in line waiting for that interview or waiting for your portfolio to be picked up by someone, right? You're not going to be ahead of line. No, it's 100 other people are waiting in line the same with you. Having connection will be a nice push to put that in front of the people who are already in the firm, so they know how capable you are. If you are capable and you know that you deserve to be in this company, put that in front of them, right? Because you are fighting for a position here, right? Put that in front of them, and then the rest is based on your ability of, can you nail that interview, can you make a good impression, can you be a good team member for that team, right? never burn your bridges. That's my, I don't know what strategy that is, but like never burn your bridges is also another strategy. Even though you don't have an offer from that firm, keep that connection. Even though you leave the firm you used to work for before, keep that connection. You never know what turnaround, man. You never know what turnaround. Like sometime when you left that firm and people remember you, they're gonna contact you. I got contact from Gensler, like, hey Bill, you want to come back? See, like there's a lot of things going on, right? Or like sometime when you have a friend who looking for a job, and you like, oh, I know a person, right? That in Chicago or somewhere, I can connect you with that person, right? So sometimes you can be a resource for someone as well because you don't burn those bridges. You have this network of people, right? Architecture field, it's actually quite small. Like you keep bumping into people wherever you go, right? And keep updating your portfolio. Like even though you work on restroom, even though you work on like some like small like detail construction dock, but like save all those resources and keep updating your work. Depending on which firm you're applying to, you can shuffling things around in and out so that you can have a story or a narrative to tell in your interview, but then always keep those resources and keep updating your work because um you if you are in the workforce, right, and you're still young in your career, when I say young I mean like not even 10 year, like 10 year down. I still consider 10 years young. Then you have to keep updating your stuff. But then when there's come to a point where your experience is so high, your connection network is so strong, all you need is just resume. All our leaders now, all they need is just resume, or maybe not even resume. Their name was passed around, right? So, but then if you're still young, keep refreshing yourself, keep updating your work. Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't updated my portfolio in a while. I gotta do that.
No, like I say, this is your portfolio. Like Strijan, your name is being passed around in Corgan. Everyone knows you. Like this is your portfolio, right? And I mean, Corgan is just like a small circle, but like the internet know who you are. The world knew you are. You got an interview with Kai from Big. Come on, man. Like like how many people can do that? Like no, for real. Like how many people can do that? Can grab Kai like yo? Kai and BR Ingle was in Atlanta 2 years ago, and they were giving a lecture across from my apartment. So after the deadline, I actually just walk over the or like over the lecture and just sit down and listen. And like I did not even get a chance to like talk to Kai or like BR Ingle, and you have an interview with Kai. That's incredible, right? So
Yeah. One thing I realized after after I started doing this podcast is like, so I was reading this book called Million Dollar Weekend. So there is
mm,
this one really good tip on this book. It's like you need to flex your ask muscle. So just go and ask anyone. You don't have to care about like if they're gonna be helping you out or not, but just ask. And that's what I did with the big interview. So
mhm.
I just emailed them and I was like, yo, I'm coming to New York, so if you guys have time, let me just do a small podcast with you guys. And they're like, yep, let's do it. And I'm like, okay. So that's how most of my podcast is going on. I'm like, I sometimes I don't even remember who I emailed like 2 weeks ago, and I'm like, oh, did I email this person? I'm like, okay, okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's also one tip for anyone who is trying to apply for the job as well. Just flex your ask muscle. Just send cold messages in LinkedIn, because like sometimes it really helps, because
yeah,
people on the other side, they actually also know the struggle of finding job, because like they have been there. I mean, we both were there once, so we know like how people will feel like when you are just trying to find a job, anxious, like staying all night, sending your portfolio out. So yeah, just reach out.
right.
That's what I want to add up the to this whole conversation.
I'm just gonna echoing that. That's such a great thing. Like like just reach out, right? I remember when I was third year in Bosuck Studio, we went to Snowhead for office visit, right? And I'm
Hmm.
like, oh, Snowhead, okay. Before that trip, I printed out my portfolio, dude. Third year, I got nothing but my second year project. I printed out my portfolio, like you say, flex that. After the office, so after the office tour, I literally gave the person who gave us the tour like, "Hey, here's my portfolio. If you're interested, please, reach out to me or
Mhm.
whatever." But so they did. And like that summer, I almost has an internship at Snowhead. If it's not because of COVID, I was so close. Yeah, because like you know how
Where is the Snohera office in the US?
it's in New York. It's in New York.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, dude, that office is incredible, man. Like it's beautiful. So I was like, oh man, like I almost worked there for a level internship anyway. Yeah, but like you say, just ask. Like it doesn't take much to ask. People will ghost you, like they always would, But like it's okay, it's okay. You never
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just about taking a chance.
hmm
So, with that note, so what's your future plan? Like, are you planning for masters or anything?
Oh man, oh man, that's always a very overarching question that I don't have a definite answer for. Well, I definitely want to get licensed. That's for sure. I'm actually studying for my exam. I have passed three exams. I got three more to go. So
That's nice. Halfway
yeah,
there.
yeah, halfway there, man. Grad school is actually on my mind. It's partially due to our visa. It's not
Hmm.
really,
Hmm.
that because like I have to go to grad. Well, that's not really because like I want to go to grad school. It's more because of partially our visa. So grad school is on my mind. Man, it's a tough question. But well, but one thing for sure, I still wanted to stay in the U.S. I still wanted to stay in the U.S. and practice in the U.S. And then my ultimate goal in life is to start my own practice.
Hmm.
So that's why I try to dabble in as much field of architecture as possible, either as retail, workspace, hospitality, aviation. I want to dabble in every single thing so I gain as much knowledge as quick as I can, and then starting my own practice. I don't, and I usually joke to people like starting my own practice would be my retirement from the corporate world, but then doing something that I really truly want to. And maybe grad school, it could be a boost for me to get those connections from like the people from the master world, and other like doors would be open so that I can lean forward that starting my own practice. um, it's gonna be a lot of risk. I know that. Like starting your own practice is not easy. Hence why I continue doing these competition, because I want to connect with the people that I think talented and that can potentially work with me in the future, and and then like kind of build up my reputation, like learning how to win project. It's also crucial. So that's how you win job, right? And through competition, I have able to like open my doors to like so many people in the world. um, Reaching out to people from different country, learning how to work in different time zone, and managing project, trying to keep everything together. And I think that's also like gonna help me in the future. But ultimately, yeah, I want to start my own practice, and I would love to start my practice in the U.S. and then grow it and expand it to Vietnam, because man, Vietnam has such incredible talents. They are so talented folks out there. I lost to a third year who's still in school, and and through the competition I presented, I won in Vietnam, and I presented. I hear how the people, how the young designer in Vietnam present their work. I was like, man, these people are like the future here. Like they're so good. They're so good. I want to work with them. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, I can already see you doing it because the first step is you just have to know what you want to do, and you already know that.
Mhm.
So it's just about taking the steps, which you all already doing it as well. So it's just a matter of time, that I can say.
Yeah. What about
Yeah.
you, man? What do you want to do then?
What?
What about you? What do you want to do? Like, where do you see yourself?
I mean, and that's a very tough question to me as well, because I mean, I like to. do all these podcasts and then like creating content, because like I always felt like there is when I was looking for grad school, there was no one like in a YouTube scene or someone to help me out. So I'm like, yeah, let me fill that void. And then another thing was like even finding job and stuff like that. Like I'm talking with so many people like you. I'm actually trying to make a portfolio for the people who are watching this channel. Like they can just reach out to you guys, even like if they want to find job or something. So I'm just trying to create a value for now. I exactly don't know what I really want to do, because um, I, in terms of architecture, so I said like I'm more into BIM side and then detail side, because I like when you put together the building, because I like to know like how you actually put that glass on the building. Like it's not just a matter of a screw. You need more things there. So there is a whole process, and I'm actually learning a lot on that with Corgan, because there was this one project and I was just doing glass elevator, and I was just learning like how to put together a glass elevator. So for that, like, one thing I learned is like you are not going to learn all the details in the world, but you just have to figure out what's the process of figuring out the detail.
Hmm.
So basically, it's like you need to reach out to right people and then ask the right questions, and then you
Hmm.
can find out the right detail. it's
Hmm.
it's not like you're gonna go to internet and then like copy some detail from there.
Hmm.
It's more like that in the real world. So I'm
Hmm.
trying to excel on that, and also like BIM management, so like being more like a model curator for the whole team, so that I can help out setting up the model. And then if there is any other model questions, then I would be the guy to go to. So those are my things right now.
Hmm.
So I'm not exactly sure about the practice, but let's see. I mean, I feel like I'm still trying to figure out things on that. So yeah, I guess that's my thing right now.
Yeah, but like still, like kudos to you. Like if like I do a lot of competition, but then like kudos to you for doing this. I know like doing this after works is a lot. It's a lot. Like even though you say you're not editing anymore, but again, man, thinking about the script, curating all this, right? Working with your team in Nepal, it's a lot. I totally understand, and like I know you like you want to have a routine, like you're a routine person. You go to the gym early in the morning, trying to go put in your work, go home and do other stuff, and it's commendable. And I really think you are inspiring a lot of people, man. I think you are showing them the way of like what else can you do with architecture, right? Like I'm still like doing competition, even though people say like, oh, I'm doing something else with it. Not really. I'm still staying like the design, right? But then you are actually approaching it architecturally on a different way, like in a different perspective. And like these conversations you bringing into the table, the people you bring into to the table, you brought in Kai, man. I'm going back to that. Like that show that like you started somewhere, you started small, but then you brought in big names, and those big names will definitely gonna like create inspiration that, oh damn, Strichen did it, can I do it, right? And I'm sure you have people reach out to you asking for advice, asking for portfolio advice and all that stuff, and I think that's in the work, man. It's happening and I can see that, right? Yeah, and really appreciate the work you put in, and the podcast you put in. It's incredible, even though most of it is not in English, and I'm like, man, I wish they in English. I have some sort of like English subtitle, but yeah.
But now the good thing is most probably most of it is going to be in English until I'm targeting Nepali audience, because so I also felt like why do I have to limit myself with just one language when I can reach out to more people?
Yeah.
So yeah, moving ahead, that's the plan. And yeah, shout out to my editing team as well, who will be editing this video. And thank you so much, guys, for that and taking some things out of my plate. And yeah, that's all about this today's podcast. And it was so much positive. I think the whole conversation was so filled with positive notions and stuff. So what do you think about it?
No, I love it. I love it. It's at first I was like, man, I got so much work to do. But then, so I did not expect that the conversation was going nicely like this. And no, thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you for giving me such great questions and such a great environment to respond to. And I think having good questions is one thing, but then be able to like curate it, it's a very great thing to do. And you are doing it very fantastically. Because one thing when I share my portfolio, I was like, mine's pretty long. I wonder how Strichen gonna like stop me. And you did. You're like, all right, can you we move on to the competition? Well, like perfect. You know, like he knows what he's doing. You know, being able to like provide that professional friendly environment for people to respond to. It's very crucial. You are a very wonderful host. Keep doing what you're doing, man.
All right. Thank you so much, man. I mean, it's so nice of you that you are giving me a lot of compliment more than I can handle, but thank you
Like
so
you know me,
much.
I don't cap. I don't lie. I just say the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
All
yeah.
right, then we're gonna end this in this positive note today, and I will see you guys in the next video. So until then, take care and bye bye.